Yo, what's up, guys? Today we are reacting to one more historical video. This is the documentary about 100 years of Jallianwala Bagh, how the massacre unfolded. As you guys know, I am watching Sardar Udam and it's making me think a lot. it it makes me so angry. But guys, don't forget to like and subscribe. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go watch Sardar Udam and yeah, let's watch this. Join us on Discord. Link is in the description.
On a hot April evening in Punjab, a British general orders his troops to fire upon Indians gathered at an open park in Amritsar city.
And then he shoots and he does not give any warning. So people scramble here, there, they try and, there's no hiding place in the Bagh. It's totally a barren land. So they fall into the well while running. They try and clamber over the walls where they're shot. All the eyewitness accounts are so dreadful. I mean, I really found it difficult to read some of them because it's so awful what he did.
Before we understand how this came to pass, let's rewind the clock and go back a month or so to March 1919. The First World War had ended and Punjab was under the oppressive regime of this man, Lieutenant Governor Michael O'Dwyer. On the 10th of March, the British pass a new law called the Rowlatt Act. Anger among Indians comes to a boiling point. In India, the Rowlatt Act is referred to as the Black Act.
They could be arrested on suspicion, kept in jail without trial for 2 years, and there was no appeal against that. That means that's why this popular name for them, na dalil, na vakil, na appeal.
And that is the time when Gandhi appears on the scene. And Gandhi brings with him an anti-Rowlatt Act Satyagraha. It becomes his first really major successful Satyagraha. And what is very interesting is that most of the most successful Satyagraha ever to be held are in cities of Punjab.
By the end of the month, the wildfire called Gandhi had spread all over India. Amritsar was not aloof. Within a week, two local leaders, Dr. Saifuddin Kichlu and Dr. Satyapal, had organized two successful hartals in the city.
9th April was a Ram Navami day, a very a traditional Hindu festival. Normally the procession would be taken by the Hindus, but for the first time we see that Muslims also joins this procession.
Everybody who participated came from different communities. This is very much a Hindu, Muslim, Sikh, even Christian story.
For the British, whenever the people, large number of people, the crowds are on the street, they are always reminded of 1857.
And this was even more frightening for the people there, for the people who were ruling India at that time, because they could not, I mean, all their efforts to divide and rule seemed to be failing in front of their eyes.
The Hindu-Muslim unity had frightened the British, and the administration of Lieutenant Governor O'Dwyer had decided Satyapal and Kichlu had to be arrested and kept secretly in Dharmshala.
So Satyapal and Kichlu, when they are called to the DC's house on the 10th of April, they go there very peacefully, expecting that they can have a discussion and dialogue with the DC, Irving, who is, by the way, who has just about arrived in Amritsar. He's extremely nervous again seeing all these crowds, and he arrests them as well. And this arrest by trickery takes aback the people who are already, they are actually in the process of doing the Satyagraha.
See, that's the thing. The whole thing started with fear. They were afraid of the crowd. But it was a peaceful gathering. How can you be afraid of peace?
So the followers, as usual, they collected together and went with a faryat to the deputy commissioner that release our leaders. There was, you can say, confrontation between the um, the crowd and the police, and they were fired at. Around 20 people died. Hundreds and thousands of people were on the streets, and those who were coming back, they were so angry that they also ransacked, looted, burnt British buildings.
The turning point came during the rioting on the 10th of April. 5 British officers were killed, and Marcella Sherwood, a British teacher and missionary, was accosted and assaulted in a street.
This brings down the ire, the anger, the brutality of the entire British Raj, whatever representatives they have in Amritsar, upon the people of Amritsar. And there is now no going back.
This street would later come to be known by different names such as Crawling Lane and Kodionwali Gully.
See, look, the actions of some had a direct consequence to the majority that were peaceful bystanders or protesters.
ਜਨਰਲ ਦਾ ਡਰ ਦਾ ਜ਼ਮਾਨਾ ਸੀ ਉਹਨੇ ਇਸ ਚੀਜ਼ ਦਾ ਬਦਲਾ ਲੈਣ ਪਿੱਛੇ ਨਾ ਉਹ ਉਹ ਜੋ ਸ਼ੋਲਾ ਬਣੇ ਨਾ ਉਹਦੇ ਪਰਿਓ ਬੱਚੇ ਤੋਂ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਬੁੱਢੇ ਤੱਕ ਉਹਨੇ ਕਿਸੇ ਨੂੰ ਨਹੀਂ ਬਖਸ਼ਿਆ ਉੱਥੋਂ ਕੋਰੇ ਮਾਰ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਸੀ ਅੱਡੀਆਂ ਦੇ ਪਾਚਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਢਿੱਡ ਘਸਾ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਜੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਘਸਾ ਕੇ ਕੋਰੇ ਵੱਜੀ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਸੀ ਤੇ ਉੱਥੋਂ ਤੱਕ ਲੈ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਸੀ ਇਹ ਜ਼ੁਲਮ ਕੀਤਾ ਜੀ
ਅੰਗਰੇਜ਼ਾਂ ਦਾ ਰਾਜ ਸੀ ਤੇ ਜਮਾਦਾਰ ਦੀ ਹਵੇਲੀ ਰਾਜਾ ਰਣਜੀਤ ਸਿੰਘ ਛੋਟਾ ਬੀਕਾ ਸਕੂਲ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਸੀ ਉੱਥੇ ਮੇਮ ਲੈ ਪੇਪਰ ਲੈਣ ਆਈ ਸੀ ਪੇਪਰ ਲੈਣ ਆਈ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਛੇੜਿਆ ਲਾਲੂ ਹਲਵਾਈ ਨੇ ਬਚਾਇਆ ਬਦਰੀਦਾਸ ਦੀ ਹਵੇਲੀ ਹੈਗੀ ਸੀ ਰਿਛ ਦੀ ਉੱਥੇ ਲੁਕੋਇਆ ਉਹ ਮਰੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਸੀ ਉਹ ਜਿੰਦੀ ਸੀ ਫਿਰ ਇੱਥੇ ਟਿਕ ਲੱਗੀ ਮਤਲਬ ਢਿੱਡ ਦੇ ਭਾਰ ਰਿੜਦੇ ਸੀ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਟਾਂਗੇ ਕੋੜੇ ਵੱਜਦੇ ਸੀ ਕੋੜੇ ਵੱਜੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਫਿਰ ਕੋੜਿਆਂ ਲਖੂਨਾ ਪਿਆ ਸੀ
The 11th of April is a day of mourning for the city.
On the morning of 11th, permission was taken, and after repeated requests, they allow the local government allow the people to dispose of the dead bodies.
Wow. They didn't even want
Things were
that.
about to get a lot worse. In the evening, Brigadier General Reginald Dyer is brought in from Jalandhar to control the situation in Amritsar.
So Dyer is somebody who's lived in India, he was born in India, he speaks fluent Urdu, Hindustani, he understands, actually he has a very good rapport with his soldiers. But when it comes to this particular incident, it seems that he was actually quite prepared to teach them a lesson they would never forget.
The next day, Dyer takes
He was born in India.
a round of the city and makes a series of proclamations.
They were made mostly in places where poor people lived, where Kashmiris lived. Half of the city, in fact, was left as such. And one more thing I would like to add that even the posters that 144 has been imposed in Amritsar was not even posted on the wall of Jallianwala Bagh, where usually public meetings were held.
There is a palpable tension in the air. Thousands gather in the walled city and make their way to the Jallianwala Bagh. Some are here to demand the release of Kichlu and Satyapal. Some are looking for a place to relax after offering Baisakhi prayers at the Golden Temple. Reports of people defying the curfew reach General Dyer, who is stationed at Rambagh. He leaves with 2 armoured vehicles and drives to the Jallianwala Bagh.
Some people were not even protesting, they were just relaxing, sitting down.
Distance of about 1.7 kilometers. The entrance to the Bagh is too narrow and it is impossible for his armoured vehicles to go through, so he disembarks and leads his troops on foot. Around 4:30 p.m, General Dyer, along with 90 soldiers, takes position at the main entry and exit point of the Bagh.
He says later that if the lane had been wide enough, he would have taken the armored vehicles and just shot at the people with the armored vehicles as well. I mean, so this is the callousness of the man. He goes in, he takes troops from who are Baluchis and Gurkhas, so that, you know, they're far removed from the people of Punjab and do.
How scared can somebody be to actually want to shoot an armored vehicle against a peaceful crowd? How scared can somebody be? I don't think he was scared. I think he was vengeful. I think he had hatred against them.
Do not really have any kind of sympathy, or would not have.
He was probably
The
bloodthirsty.
shooting lasts only around 11 minutes. There is nowhere for people to run. British figures put the dead around 300. The Indian National Congress claimed around 1500 people lost their lives.
In fact, there were very small 3 to 4 exits, what we call small narrow gullies. So people can't even think of reaching.
Lala Hariram Bahal was at the Bagh on the day of the massacre. He was shot twice and managed to escape the Bagh. But he couldn't reach the hospital on time and bled to death on the street. 100 years later, his grandson Mahesh Bahal says they are fighting to get martyr status for the victims of the massacre.
इंदिरा गांधी ने 101,30,000 लोगों को दिए थे जो उधर शहीद हुए थे ना ऑल ओवर इंडिया में, परंतु हमारे यहाँ पे किसी शहीद को कोई शहादत का दिया नहीं गया। उनको जाता रहा है, कोई ऐसे जाते रहे हैं, परंतु हमें पैसे की कोई दरकार नहीं। हमें ये तो है ना कि हमें जलियांवाला बाग के ताकि आने वाली जो पीढ़ियाँ हैं, आने वाला युवा है, उसको पता लगे कि शहीदों का क्या दर्जा होता है।
Reginald Dyer will go down in history as the butcher of Amritsar.
Brigadier General Dyer, as he was known at that time, came with a mission, but he was not actually involved in the grander plans of oppression which were unleashed on Punjab by the Lieutenant Governor O'Dwyer. Back home in England, Dyer was a hero. I mean, people thought he'd saved Britain.
The days following the massacre saw martial law being imposed in the city of Amritsar. Indians were asked to salam every white person that they saw on the streets. General Reginald Dyer faced an inquiry by the Hunter Commission and was eventually asked to step down from the army. But his supporters raised £26,000 so that he could live the rest of his life in comfort. Meanwhile, the families of the Indian victims were given 500 rupees by the government. But the Jallianwala Bagh massacre also marked the beginning of the end of the British Empire. It was after this massacre that Rabindranath Tagore returned his knighthood, and a year later Mahatma Gandhi gave the clarion call for the non-cooperation movement. When we look back at the last 100 years, Jallianwala Bagh stands out as a symbol of defiance by a people who refuse to be second-class citizens in their own country.
You know, when I watched the movie Sardar Udham, and you guys can watch it, my reaction here on the channel, I said something that is very true. You cannot, their idea initially was to set an example, but whenever you do something like this, a revolution starts, because people, they don't accept, you cannot establish fear in someone and expect them to just take it. So every time in history that you hit someone down, you hit a revolutionary or people who are revolutionaries, whenever you hit them down, 3 came, and whenever you hit them down, double 6 came. So this was the beginning of the end of British rule. So let that be an example. You can't stop the people.
Mr. Speaker,
Justice.
the tragedy of Jallianwala Bagh in 1919 is a shameful scar on British Indian history. As Her Majesty the Queen said before visiting Jallianwala Bagh
I have
in
seen this one.
1997, It is a distressing example of our past history with India. We deeply regret what happened and the suffering caused. I'm pleased that today the UK-India relationship is one of collaboration, partnership, prosperity and security. Indian diaspora make an enormous contribution to British society, and I'm sure the whole House wishes to see the UK's relationship with India continue to flourish.
I have seen this speech of Theresa May, and you can see that I talk about it on another video. Guys, it's time for me to go. I will see you on the next video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. This was a horrible event, and I've talked a lot about it, but keep on commenting, and we're gonna be back to watching movies very soon. I just took a quick mind travel, after watching Sardar Udam. I was like I didn't know any of it, so I needed to study, and I decided, hey, let's react to it. And my mind was just focused on trying to understand why can people be so cruel. But hey, we're never going to understand that, right? I'll see you in the next video. Take care, guys. Bye bye. Keep safe. See you soon.